Welcome back to Hardball. President Obama promised change and ran his campaign against former President Bush. And in his first 100 days, he's rolled back a number of Bush policies. He ordered the closure of the detention facilities at Guantanamo. He banned the use of torture. He shuttered secret CIA prisons overseas. He eased restrictions on federally funded embryonic stem cell research. He ordered the withdrawal of combat forces from Iraq by August of 2010. And he's refocused our efforts in Afghanistan and has ordered an additional 21,000 troops deployed to Afghanistan. He's improved, many people believe, our overall image abroad. Charles Cook is an NBC News analyst and editor of the Cook Political Report. And Clarence Page is, of course, the Chicago Tribune columnist. Gentlemen, I want you to talk, if you can, at length about the difference between this president and the one we had as recently as January 20th. Charlie, you first.
Chris, elections have consequences. When you think about the last two elections, 2006, 2008 combined, Republicans have lost 54 House seats, 14 Senate seats, not counting Arlen Specter, and they've lost the presidency. This is not an ambiguous public statement. People signed on for change. Now, the question is, once they start seeing the specifics, the specific proposals coming down the pike, do they stay on board? That you have when you know these are the president is not taking bite-sized little baby steps. This is big stuff. It's tough stuff. It's controversial. It cost a lot of money. And so we'll see. People signed up for change. The question is, do they stay on board? I mean, they signed up for this cruise, but do they stay on board once all the specifics are out? That's the great question.
Well, the grass is always greener, Clarence. It's still green, it seems to me.
Well, it does seem green. You know, I think President Barack Obama has shown himself to be a transformational leader, unlike George W. Bush, much more like Ronald Reagan, in that he has really helped to swing the political pendulum back toward the left, back toward progressive policies at a time when the country is in, what, 2 wars and a deep recession, the kind of a situation that no previous president has run into. He's had more success in this first 100 days than I expected, or I think anybody had a right to expect.
Well, Charlie, let's start with you guys. Both of you look at the first set of issues. Let's talk about the war policy. We're pulling back on Iraq. We're going in deeper into Afghanistan. What do you make of that politically? Is that a political assessment we can make right now, or do we have to wait and see what happens, Charlie?
Well, I'm a little skeptical about whether we're going to be able to actually keep to the Iraq timetable, but I think voters are going to say he wants to get us out. He's trying to get out. He's going to get us out as soon as it's feasible, and so they may not hold him to the specifics of a timetable. Now, the question is, can he keep this coalition together as Afghanistan looks like it's going to get a lot worse? And then when you see casualties get 2 or 3 or 4 times the level they've been now, and when if the casualties start, God forbid, getting up towards the way it was in Iraq, do people stay on board there? So this is a tough. I mean, these are tough decisions, and I agree with Clarence. He is a transformational leader, and people are sticking with him so far. But boy, I would argue the next couple 100 days are going to be a lot tougher than the first 100.
What about that cutting-edge reality where we do face more? If we escalate in Afghanistan, if we begin to lose position in Iraq, do the centrist people out there begin to say, wait a minute, I wish we had a hawk back?
Well, or do the centrists hang on, or do the liberals hang on? I mean, I would argue the liberals are being very patient with him, but do the liberals stay patient if casualty figures go up? I'm sorry, I stepped on Clarence.
Go ahead, Clarence.
That's okay. Happens all the time on this show, Charlie. But no, I think what troubles me about Afghanistan is that our goals and the end game are not that clear. President Obama has rolled back the rhetoric a bit. We're not trying to establish democracy throughout Afghanistan, although that is part of the semi-stated mission. The real problem is what do we do with the Taliban? What do we do with Pakistan right next door, and that very porous border? And Pakistan's got nukes. The Taliban is resurgent. How do we know? How do we define success in that region? And that's where we run into that problem that previous countries have run into in Afghanistan. How far do you go before you decide, okay, you all take care of your own problems?
Well, let me take a look at something David Gregory got out of Secretary Gates, who was the holdover, of course, at the Defense Department. He asked him about what's the difference between working with President George W. Bush and working with the new president. This was quite a revelation, I thought.
I think that probably President Obama is somewhat more analytical. And he makes sure he hears from everybody in the room on an issue. And if they don't speak up, he calls on them.
Well, that's about intellectual curiosity. Maybe that's the intangible we've got here. Gentlemen, it seems to me when you watch this president deal with everything, from buying a dog or getting a dog as a gift to dealing with swine flu, the man seems to be thinking all the time and being quite eloquent about what he's thinking, like Charlie, and then Clarence.
Yeah, Chris, back in September, the Pew Research Center did a national poll, and they asked people, what's one word that you would use to describe Barack Obama? And the word that came out more frequently than any other, was inexperienced. When they asked that question again in March, 2 months ago, last month, it was intelligent. And to watch him at press conferences and all these things, you say, wow, this guy, I don't know if I agree with him on all these things, but this is a very, very, very sharp guy. And for a guy that's, somewhat inexperienced, he seems to be picking this stuff up pretty quickly.
Do you think he's as open-minded as he seems? Clarence, you're from Chicago. He comes across as a thoughtful person, therefore a person who's open to new ideas. But one of the criticisms is that he's really a basic liberal, and he's only acting like he's open-minded. He's already got his ideas figured.
Not that there's anything wrong with that in Chicago, anyway, being a basic liberal.
Right.
He is a basic liberal, but the fact is he wants to get things done. And you've certainly seen a lot of discontent to his left that he has not done more in regard to torture prosecution or to Guantanamo and other policies like that. I think that though he has redeemed what George W. Bush once sarcastically referred to as the touchy-feely approach, the idea of thinking and rethinking these issues and programs. Bush prided himself on being a man of action. Obama does take time to think first. If there's any bad rap on Obama, it's been that he can be kind of a cold fish sometimes.
Yeah.
He is the kind of a guy who, while he understands people, does he really like them? He's great with his family. You can see that kind of rapport, and he gets along well with folks. But he has been accused in the past.
I love the way you do this,
getting
Clarence.
tired of people walking away from them.
Clarence, I love the way you did that. I love it because I've had the same experience with him. The limited experience I've had with him is he's a very cool customer. And I compare him to that old movie actor Ray Milland, very cool, very calm, not exactly lovey-dovey, I wouldn't think. Yep. Okay, Clarence, thank you very much. Charlie Cook, both you gentlemen, thank you. Up next.